The views and opinions expressed by the guest author or speaker during this live session are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Reader's Magnet. The content shared is for informational purposes only and does not constitute endorsement or promotion of any particular belief, ideology, or product.
Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to the RM Hive. You are tuning into Reader's Magnet's featured author interview. I am Brittany, and today we are truly honored to be joined by T.D. Flenaugh, author of the deeply introspective and powerfully written novel entitled Little Mobile Home on the Tundra Interrupting Generational Dysfunction. This is a work that moves beyond a traditional coming of age story through the perceptive voice of a young girl growing up in the remote interior of Alaska. The novel examines how environment, family systems, and inherited patterns shape identity over time. It is both intimate in its storytelling and expansive in its ideas, engaging with themes of generational trauma, faith, psychological inheritance, and the long, often difficult process of self understanding. So, TD, thank you so much for joining us today. We're truly honored to have you here at the RM Hive.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk about the novel and all the
Mhm.
events coming up with the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books and getting
Yes.
really ready to share my story with so many people.
Right. I'm excited too. So, without further ado, let's begin. TD, the title itself is both striking and symbolic. What inspired the image of a little mobile home on the tundra, and how does that setting function within the story that you are telling?
Yes, so it really is, a throwback to
Mhm.
Little House on the Prairie. So one of the things in the novel is, the family is relocating to like a new frontier, a new area from Southern California to Alaska. And they have this wonderful land that has lots of space and lots of possibility. So the character, who is an avid reader as a young girl all through her life, she imagines this experience is going to be like Little House on the Prairie. They move into a
Aw.
mobile home on the tundra. The tundra is like this flat, dry land in Alaska. So it's description of the land, and there's not that many trees. So she really feels like it's going to be similar.
All right, so TD, there's a comment here from Bob. The title feels like an images verse, very cutting and evocative in its phrasing. Nice.
Thank you
Right.
so much, Bob. Yes, it is supposed to, like, evoke certain feelings and emotions, and so I'm glad it's doing just that.
Yeah. So, TD, the novel is told through Tawny's perspective as a child, right? Yet it
Yes.
carries significant emotional and thematic depth. How did you approach building a narrative voice that remains true to a child's experience while also engaging with such complex realities?
Yes, I mean, unfortunately, like, this is many children's reality where they
Mhm.
are carrying more than they should at a young age, right?
Right.
And Tani deals with this on so many levels where she is dealing with this complex issues, really questioning her family members and really
Mhm.
having, them act in ways that she really questions. Um, as I wrote this book, I really was thinking about, what are some words that little kids would use. And then as they got
Yeah. Yeah.
older and she read more, she had more concrete things and more sophisticated things to say about what was happening in her life and the patterns that she sees and knows about in the family story.
Wow. I like that. It's so detailed. So, with that, your work thoughtfully incorporates ideas from Naim Akbar's Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery, right, TD?
Yeah.
So, How do you see that framework reflected in the dynamics within Tawny's family? And why was it important for you to anchor the novel in that intellectual and cultural context?
Yeah, so, Tani is a Black girl. Her family
Mhm.
moves from, Southern California, specifically Pomona, and, um, the generational violence, the generational teenage parenthood, uh having a child before you're an adult. Um, these kinds of things have its roots in the harm that was happened against African Americans as they became, as they were surviving enslavement. And so it's not really talked about that much. But when we're talking about interrupting generational dysfunction, what really
Mhm.
important that you're able to name what's happening. You could identify and trace some of those roots. And once we could name and and claim, you explain it, you're able to break the chains, right? You're able to interrupt those patterns. And it's really at the heart of the novel, right? Telling this
Yes.
younger story, but also thinking about naming it, explaining it, and breaking it down. Because if we can't name it, we are not sure what it is. We're not able to, do a dissection of the issue and get to the heart of the matter.
All right, so now that you've answered the question, TD, I see a comment here from Young One Joseph Kirkpatrick. He's saying, I
Okay.
appreciate how real and unpolished the truth of trauma is portrayed here.
Love that. Thank you so much. I
Right.
appreciate it. What a great compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. There. It's right there on the screen. Again, I appreciate how real and unpolished the truth of trauma is portrayed here. Nice. All right. So let's see a few comments. The imagery, there's another one from Tajwana. The imagery of a fragile mobile home on the tundra is so symbolic and powerful.
Love that. Yes, I really tried to make sure we talk about that mobile home. It was, the source of so much hope, and it was the source of so much consternation as well. And it is symbolizing what happens with that mobile home, the renovation of the mobile home. All of the things have so much
Mm.
to do with the family and the family structure and the way the family structure breaks down at times and how it survives.
Yeah, which brings me to another comment by Susan Hodges. This is a kind of book that helps people better understand themselves and their families.
Yes, thank you so
Yes.
much for that comment, Susan. Like, that is the reason why I wrote this story. I went through all of these things as a child,
Mhm.
and growing up and identifying these issues and being able to deal with them, I knew was a story that other people could relate to and could help them to dissect and examine some things that are happening in their own family and being able to heal from it. So I did write this novel for my own healing and for your own, whoever's reading it and whoever's able to benefit and be blessed by it.
Yeah. So, TD, the Alaskan landscape feels almost like a character in itself, which is the setting, right? Particularly with its extremes of light and darkness. How did
Yes.
the environment evolve beyond the backdrop, and what does it reveal about the emotional and psychological states of your characters in the story?
Yes, when people live in extreme weather.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Alaska is coupled with extreme light. So there's 24-hour darkness in the interior of Alaska where Tani grows up. So 24-hour daylight we have, and it gets all the way down to about 4 hours of light during the winter time. There are some parts of Alaska that go 24-hour daylight, 24-hour darkness, but not this
Mm-hmm.
part of Alaska. It's Fairbanks specifically. Um, but when you're in that environment, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel limitless during the summertime, right? If it's one
Yeah.
o'clock in the daytime and you're looking outside, it's very sunny and bright. That is what it looks like at 1 a.m., at 2 a.m.
Wow.
It is the
Whoa.
same. It looks like daytime. There's no difference, and
Yeah.
it the possibilities are there. So we see Tani and the characters really like limitless possibilities, like during this 24-hour daylight, right? And then
Yeah.
when it gets down to so little bit of light, goes about down to like 4 hours, you feel depression, right? And it is also
Oh.
like a biological thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you see the characters really grappling with things. And then also
Yes.
in this, like, this kind of almost like endless night, you also see characters making major decisions. Like, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what it is like outside, I'm going to push against this and I'm going to discover something new. I'm going to do something new. I'm going to change my story and my destiny. So,
Yeah.
the story does interweave with those extremes in the weather and in the light and darkness.
Yeah. Wow. So time is really like that there in Alaska, huh?
Yes.
So, like, you can't even tell. So anyway, there's a comment here by Cecilia Jones, TD. What conversations do you hope this book will spark in families and communities?
Yeah, so I have even like an accompanying healing journal called Break the Cycle
Ooh.
because it is so important. If you go to fallingforlearning.com, you can get access to it. Um, I really do want it to spark ideas about patterns, recognizing patterns, naming patterns, and
Mm-hmm.
then interrupting those patterns. This is why this book is so great for young adults,
Mm-hmm.
for people who are really in the generational cycle building, right? Building up that
Yes.
legacy in a positive way. This book is something that could help you, and really support that and really spark those conversations. Where maybe if it's more of like a scientific book, it may not be as much, but when you really are
Mm-hmm.
into the heart of the character and how it feels
Yeah.
to be in the skin of that character, it really
Yeah.
can help facilitate, healing conversations.
I agree with that. And yes, speaking of that, there's another comment here by, let me scroll for a quick bit because there's a lot of comments. It's by Tajwana. She's asking, TD, what does interrupting generational dysfunction mean to you personally?
Yeah, so personally for me, it really meant,
Mm-hmm.
instead of having the silence between characters where, sometimes the characters aren't speaking to each other, we
Mm-hmm.
have family fractures in those relationships. It really has to do with having those conversations, the hard conversations,
Yeah.
and seeing things from the different characters' points of view. So when we're talking about like Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar,
Yes.
it helps the character Tani to really relate to her parents and to sympathize with
Mm-hmm.
them. Because I know when you feel like someone has done harm to you, you're mad at them, you are
Yeah.
blaming them, you
Yeah.
are judging them as a person. But understanding that they didn't have certain tools and
Mm-hmm.
resources really helps you to humanize that person and then really have
Yes.
conversations with them. Because when someone is not healed in their parenting, they're often doing things that they feel like are for the best, but actually are harmful. And
Yeah.
so having someone, their child, tell them, you did this and this is how it made me feel. And they may not be open for it, but actually taking them through something like a book or some kind of research
Mm-hmm.
about it, they could help face it themselves. And so for me, my parents and I have really definitely healed and talked and been through a healing process together because of reading about it, talking about it, and really being open to hearing criticism from both sides.
Yes. I agree with all of that. I definitely agree with it. Like, it's how you build up and become better, and it all just boils down to being kind, right?
Yeah.
Being kind. And there's a comment here from Rick's Luz. This story feels like a gentle but firm call to self-awareness. Yes, which is what TD just said. Ricks.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
I'm glad that it's resonating with you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, TD, at its core, the novel suggests that internal struggles are carried within us, regardless of where we go. What
Absolutely.
do you hope readers, especially those who may recognize similar patterns in their own lives, take away from Tawny's journey?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think that happens a lot where we have like some
Mm-hmm.
inner cities that have like a lot of turmoil, and then
Yeah.
people think, oh, if I move away from here, I won't have the turmoil. While that is true for some people, that the
Mm-hmm.
place is the problem, sometimes if we're really looking and reflecting, we notice that we're the problem. We're
Yeah.
fighting,
Yeah.
we are in conflict, we're making poor decisions, we are allowing people access to us that are not helpful, that are harmful to us. And so, if you can do that in Southern California, if you're
Mm-hmm.
fighting in Southern California, you could be fighting in Alaska. If
Yeah.
you're doing drugs in Southern California, you could do drugs in Alaska. So your
Yeah.
problems aren't gonna go away because you move. They're only gonna go away
Yes.
if you're making different decisions, if you're reflecting, when you're
Yes.
learning from your mistakes. And I think that is something that sometimes we forget. And we think, oh, person is causing problems when we're only responsible for ourselves. So are we taking part in the problems that are happening? Or
Yes.
um, if not, a change in geography could work. But if we are actually the ones that are causing the problem and not realizing it,
Yeah.
then you're gonna have the same problems wherever you go. There,
I
wherever you
agree with that.
go, there you are.
I agree with that. People tend to do that, I've noticed that a lot. People tend to blame someone else. They forget that they should also be reflecting on themselves, because no matter where you go, if you're not willing to change yourself for the better, then it's all for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with that TD, where can our audience find Little Mobile Home on the Tundra, interrupting generational dysfunction? Where can they buy a copy?
Yes, you could buy it, anywhere books are sold, such as Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, a bookshop.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you could get it on my website, fallingforlearning.com. So, yeah, lots of places you can get it. Please, join our email list, join the Falling for Learning website where you can be a part of the reading and healing series that we have, because it is sparking those conversations, and we are talking about how we could heal and what do we notice in our own lives and what actions we can take towards self realization,
Yes.
actualization.
Yes. And you also mentioned before the interview, we had a little talk before we started, right? You also
Yeah.
mentioned you do podcasts. You should share that right now.
Yes, I have my podcast called Falling for
Yeah.
Learning, and it really, again, is about generations, right? Making sure I'm
Hmm.
empowering the parents and educators in getting that next generation on track for learning and staying on track for success. I am a career educator, and just like in the book, I have been working on teaching kids how to read since I was in fourth grade. I've been teaching kids to read, and
Hmm.
I've also
Wow.
dedicated my life as a career educator as well.
Yeah. Wow. So we're about to wrap up this author interview. TD, do you have something you want to say to the viewers right now?
Yes, of course, reach out to us at fallingforlearning.com. And I hope
Hmm.
that you are sharing this book and, giving it to young kids and really having conversations that are maybe hard and difficult, but very necessary.
Yes, very necessary indeed. So, with that said, TD, thank you so much for joining us here today. Your book offers a thoughtful and nuanced exploration of identity, generational patterns, and the courage it takes to confront them. As you've said, it's necessary, right?
Yeah.
It's a story that not only invites reflection, but also encourages deep readers a deeper understanding of how change begins. So, with that, TD, that's a wrap on today's featured author interview. To our wonderful audience, thank you for tuning in here at the RM Hive. Be sure to check out Little Mobile Home on the Tundra, Interrupting Generational Dysfunction by T.D. Flenaugh on, can you,
Fallingforlearning.com everywhere.
oh, yes. All right. So this has been Brittany. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you so much, TD. See you
Thank
around,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.